Wuthering Waves has almost been out for half a year now. Marketed as an alternative to Genshin Impact, Wuwa put itself in front of a lot of expectation as well as competition. How is the game doing now? At this point, I've had plenty of time to play through all the content the game has to offer, and I wanted to take a step back to talk about the state of the game. Let's get into it. First things first, we need to be real. Like other open world gacha games that have a great launch, things aren't as rainbow and butterflies many months down the road. So, why are people losing interest in Wuthering Waves? To understand this, let's talk about the content and gameplay cycle. Wuwa's general content offerings are familiar to the genre. You can explore and complete one-time puzzles for pinch amounts of resources, complete very quick daily tasks for rich rewards, and spend your daily energy on bosses or instances, both of which have trivial difficulty, in order to obtain materials to strengthen your characters. All of this to become strong enough for what is the current endgame, the Tower of Adversity, or TOA for short. TOA resets on a bi-weekly schedule, offering the largest amount of renewable premium currency earnable in-game outside of events and dailies. As it stands right now, the balancing of the floors requires roughly a level 80 main DPS for 3 different teams in order to earn the full rewards, meaning it is achievable within just over a month, which is the time it takes to get Union level 50. This is, of course, in terms of an FTP/low spender estimate. Swiping for limited character sequences and or weapons can over triple the damage output of a DPS, effectively allowing the content to be cleared even sooner. After Union level 60, level 90 is unlocked, making the DPS checks on floors much more lax. How lax? Well, I've played into resistant floors, as well as used a level 1 weapon on sequenceless 5-star units, and have still been able to get the full crests. So, for endgame players, the endgame is a bit undertuned to say the least. In addition to this repeatable endgame content, there are also one-time challenges for players, the Overdrive Tower and Holograms. The Overdrive Tower is a set of additional TOA floors that, rather than capitalizing on Wuwa's satisfying boss battles, is loaded with trash mobs. It features buffs tailored to push the requirement of certain limited units, which, while the floors can be completed without, leads to a much more frustrating experience. When completed with the intended units, the DPS requirements on these floors has as much leeway as the normal tower, with players being able to clear it in less than half the allotted time, despite this being one-time challenge content. Next, holograms are one-time boss challenges that are incredibly punishing. The timer on these is nearly a non-factor, and the fights are more about survival than a DPS check. To put the DPS requirement in a nutshell, I went through all the highest difficulty holograms, clearing in around half the allotted time or less, with a single character and no food buffs. I had a lot of fun with this content, but the challenge I've put myself to is completely artificial. Players can take advantage of food buffs, revival items, energy stacking, and of course, actually using a whole team to overcome these challenges much easier. However, I definitely stand by this content being Wuwa's shining example of gameplay, as it highlights what Wuwa is best at: challenging boss fights requiring you to parry and perfectly dodge attacks, as opposed to bad auto-targeting and trash mob management. So let's do a quick recap. The repeatable endgame content has a low bar to be cleared, and the non-repeatable content, while some of it is good, doesn't have much higher requirements to be cleared. This leads to an endgame of developing your characters and echoes to be the best, only to crush the content you're already crushing more. I understand that this might be a touch grass moment, as not all players spend as much time optimizing rotations. Casual, accessible content is a good thing, right? Yes, and also, well, no. Remember that this game is targeting an audience that has mostly already indulged in Genshin, which hits a similar endgame niche as Wuwa. Both of them being casual open-world games means that there are a lot of people who ultimately lose interest in it when they realize it's just the same base formula for the game. Now, I'm obviously not one of these people, as I'm still covering the game and having fun with the combat, which I think is great. But do understand that this isn't enough to keep everyone interested, and I just want to be real here. When playing Wuwa's ZBT, I was also skeptical about the game, and was worried it reached the same state of endgame. But it really can't be helped, can it? Gacha games, or pay-to-win games that have somehow become acceptable in the West, just can't be too competitive in the content. Or you'll end up with something like Tower Fantasy, where power creep is endless, and being a multiplayer game has to balance the DPS in raids to largely be dealt through mechanics rather than normal means, or else FTPs are useless. It wouldn't be too far of a stretch to say that the real endgame in Wuthering Waves is not just 30 out of 30 tower, but rather community focused. Like, just little things such as showing off your builds and Echo RNG, or doing funny clear challenges like solos with unexpected characters. As such, I wanted to do my part in helping to kindle the interest for indulging in what Wuwa has to offer past the base game. For the next several weeks, I'll be hosting a weekly themed challenge where the fastest clear times, as well as random participants, win some codes that give Astrites, shell credits, and more. We'll also review the best clears on our weekly reset stream on Monday, and watch all the cool tech people cook up. The first weekly challenge will be Light vs Dark, to clear Hologram 6 with Havoc Rover solo. In these challenges, there will be no food involved, no energy pre-charging, and no pre-buffing. The full rules, including where to submit runs, can be seen in my Discord. For future characters, there will be some form of balancing to account for different sequence nodes and weapons. Though it'll be tricky to calculate, we'll figure something out. Anyways, these have just been my thoughts about the game after several months. I wanted to address the good and the bad, and see where we could go next as a community. That's all for now. I'll be looking forward to the submissions for the event. See you guys next time. Bye bye!